please be respectful and mindful of each other's opinions and experiences. Please use the chat box or raise your hand. Myself and my coworker Noah will ask you questions as we go along, as well as spending the first few minutes of today's sessions, first few minutes at the end of today's sessions for questions and answers. I would like to introduce our director, Dr. Ana Helena, and allow her to introduce herself and welcome everyone.
Sorry, forgot to unmute myself. Good afternoon. My name is Ana Helena Shinsta, and I am the director of the National American Indian and Alaska Native Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. It is a mouthful. And we have several of our staff on board with us today. We have Noah assisting Teresa, and we also have Megan Dotson, who is directing the mental health at TTC. I can also happily see that we have two of our advisory council members with us as well, and that's Dr. Dale Walker and Ray Daw. And we may have some more joining us because we have a very active advisory council. So, and we have repeat visitors, but I'm also very happy to see that there are people online today that we haven't seen before. And I'm hoping that we now are increasing the number of teachers, counselors, principals in tribal schools so that we can be as helpful as we can to them in this very, very stressful and challenging time. So welcome, everybody. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for that. Ray Daw, he is here today too. He is a member of our advisory council and is a major consultant. Ray has graciously offered to give his blessing for today. So Ray, whenever you're ready, you may go ahead with your blessing.
Thank you, Teresa and Ann and Noel and Dr. Walker for joining this really important event today and the series that have been set up. But I am Kia Ani, Epashin Shin, and Sidan Jenny Tashache, and Kazatlane Tashaja. I'll kind of reverse the order there a little bit. Ado, 28 national or Tatan state of my Tori Nasha. Yate Maryland national. Kenya. Had to do my formal introduction to my Navajo relatives that are online. Could have joined on as Sancho Mashatra at the internet and Australia could have quite just on a song of Nantindo, Ikhanado, or Pedaidiano, the internet. Haledi Nantinli do to Epanto Nsekisto Natata, the internet. I get bills. I don't know how I get out of Nachiado. Nasco Dani Carto Litai, Aguiato, Ago. Halidi Queen does the Yego to Nai congestion. Chintai Nado or Tata. I should switch to Tatasili. Epan Ecuador, but yet he could all grab in the Hilda Silnet or Little Itayat or Kudonasco. But I is not of this one, so I did with the internet. Ado Kudo Nana Nasco Shibin Nachi, not unleaded as leader of the story, other not I given Nachi. Nasco Kinan should take the other shin banking another kepa. So cat about it and Kudo. Epa Kudo citizen ish out of the Epi National Kudo the internet and clinical. I could only start not long yet to hold easy out of it. I ask for blessings for us at this time when we're learning, teaching, and gaining knowledge. And in our way, Navajo way, as it is with many Native people, as we gain knowledge, we begin to plan and talk about our future. And that process is very, very, very sacred to our people. We don't engage in planning for future just out on a whim. It's a very serious process that we do work with. And in this venue that we have to talk, teach, and learn, my hope is that from here we lay out plans, paths for the future for our children and our grandchildren, that they may have less traumatic experiences than they do now, and our families too. So that's basically what's embodied in the blessings that are offered. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray, for that beautiful prayer. For today's session, we are very fortunate to have Melissa Isaac back as our presenter. Melissa has done a remarkable job in her district to ensure the Native students return to learn in a safe learning environment. Now I'm going to hand it over to Melissa so that she could introduce herself, and we'll begin today's presentation.
Bonjour, Ani, Wabzikwe Dijnakas, Name Dodem, Saginaw Chippewa Keenan, Donjaba. Like Teresa said, I'm Melissa Isaac. I'm from Michigan, the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe, and I'm the Director of Education for our tribal school system. I always, before I get into any academic accolades or anything like that, I always introduce myself in my language and also identify myself first as a mother, and then a wife, and then a family member. Just that's family is the most important thing. I have a bachelor's of education, elementary emphasis. I have a master's of administration, and I'm currently working on my doctorate in educational leadership for K-12. I've been in my position since 2011, but I've been fortunate enough to always have worked for my tribe's school and education system and with my community and with my people, and I'm fortunate for that. So we have a lot to cover. I want to back it up to last week for those of you that were here. There was a lot of information in a short amount of time, and so I want to go back and make sure that the questions that you had do get addressed before we move on to the new stuff. I prepared a presentation that I'm going to share with you all. If at any time you have questions, this is for you. So we're directing it to the things that you want to know about. We do have a third session coming up, and if it's related to that, then I will let you know. Also, Teresa and Noah are going to watch the chat for me because I get going and I kind of forget about it. So they're going to keep me on track. We'll go ahead and start. All right. Today's focus is going to be on special education and Akose Manadosens. And just a little bit of background on that long word for those of you that are not Anishinaabe. Akose Manadosens is how we say or describe the word virus. Akose is the word for sick or not feeling well. Manido is a spirit, and Zents means it's small. So a small, sick spirit. The Western belief on viruses is that they're these things and they're not necessarily animate, but to our people, it's a spirit, and we offer our tobacco when we're talking to it and asking it to, for the lessons that we need from it, because not everything about COVID-19 is negative. We talked about that a little bit, but that's the approach and the mindset that we take here in our tribal education system when we're thinking about it. All right, from last year, feels like last year, doesn't it? From last week, the way Michigan has approached viruses and mitigation is through 6 phases. In different parts of the state can be in different phases. Phases 1 through 3 mandate that schools meet remote only, not face-to-face. Phase 4, which is what we're in right now, means you can meet face-to-face. Oh, do I need to speak up?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me move this closer.
Good job catching that, Melissa.
I'm like, somebody can't hear me. All right, if that doesn't work, we'll try to figure something out. So we're in phase 4 right now, and what that means is you can return face-to-face, but with restrictions, very strict. Phase 5, which is an improvement, means you can meet face-to-face with less restrictions. And phase 6 is post-pandemic, meaning there's a vaccine or it just disappears or something happens where we come back to what I am thinking is going to be a new normal. Because just my opinion, that I don't think we're ever going to go back to what we were before, for a number of reasons. So phases 1 through 6 is how we're structured. I had the honor of serving on Michigan's Return to School Council, selected by the governor. There were 1,800 applicants, the most that have ever applied for a governor's council before, and I was one of 25 selected. We put together what's called the My Safe Schools Return to School Roadmap, and these are the guidelines that districts in our state have to follow. They're just guidelines, and a lot of this is up to local control on how they want to implement this. All right, so you had a lot of questions about health and safety. As far as what we're doing at our tribal school. Our tribal school is sovereign. We don't have to follow any of the state guidelines if we choose not to. Our school is fully funded by our tribe, so we're very fortunate in that regard. But sometimes the things that they put forth just make sense. So they have the scientists and the health providers. We look at it and we decide, does that fit our tribal values and the way that we believe? So it's culturally connected, the way we choose to do these things. So for health and safety, face masks, shields, and gloves will be provided to both staff and students, with the option of utilizing or to wear their own. New processes and procedures are being put in place. So for example, visitors, that is very limited on a case-by-case basis. Before people could come and visit and observe, in order to keep our young ones safe, we are going to be very strict about visitors, but we're not going to say that our community is not welcome in their own school. And that's just one of our values here. Family, community is very important. Our pickup and drop off is going to look a lot different as well. Each student is going to be escorted out when their families arrive. So we'll have somebody in a parking lot saying, because we know all of the families, so that's really important too, is to know your families. So, hey, Melissa's mom is here to pick her up. And so then somebody will escort Melissa out to where her caregiver is at. Hallway traffic is going to be marked, as well as like social distancing signage, but we're culturally connecting those. So you've seen the signs that say you should stay 6 feet apart, and there's like a little arrow and it says 6 feet. For us, our signs are going to say stay 2 wawash keshe apart, which is deer. So there's going to be a little picture of 2 deer standing next to each other, and that's about how far you should try to stay from anybody that you see in the school. And that's only in common areas. That's not in the classroom, and I'll get into that. We've also have egress and ingress marked. So certain doors you can only come into and certain doors you can only go out of. So our classes will be cohorted. That provides us more flexibility to make masks optional. So for example, our first graders are going to be cohorted with their teacher and the paraprofessional. And so what that means is that they're going to stay together all the time. Any special education services, lunch, everything's going to be delivered to them. There'll be thermometers in each class. There'll be scheduled hand washing breaks. There'll be hand sanitizer in each classroom. And then there'll be plexiglass barriers. We've also started and are kind of halfway through our Anishinaabe outdoor learning areas. So my vision for this was to have mini longhouses out there for each class. That's kind of changed a little bit because of the materials that we need. And so they look like mini powwow arbors out there now. So they're kind of plotted around, and there's 6 of them. So they look pretty cool. When they're finished, I'll have to somehow share a picture or something. And then we have also adopted or purchased the Clorox 360 system for sanitizing efforts, and that was paid for through CARES funding that was allocated to the tribe. We have also hired additional cleaning and sanitizing staff, and I sent a job description for cleaning expectations to Noah, and that will be included in the documents that are sent. But things are included such as washing the restrooms every hour. That's one of the expectations of these people, and so that's also funded through CARES. We also have a hybrid A-B schedule if you were here last week. So Group A will be here on Monday and Tuesday. They leave at 12:30 p.m. And then the cleaning team will come in and do all the classrooms and all of the areas. And teachers have the flexibility to work in their rooms, or they can work remotely from their homes. Wednesdays, there's no students, and so there's deep cleaning between the A group and the B group, because the B group students will come in on Thursday and Friday, so they'll switch. We also have been fortunate to come in contact Procter & Gamble, the company. They have a Native American affinity group, it's called, and they partner with Matthew 25 Ministries, which is their transportation partner. And they called us up and said, hey, can we nominate you for a donation of PPE and cleaning products? There's 40 pallets. We're like, well, yeah. So we found some room, they brought it, and there was a lot of personal hygiene products, PPE, cleaning products. And what we did was there was enough for 700 care bundles. And so we distributed that to the community. And so people came, they picked them up, and then they left.
Melissa, can I interrupt you really quick?
Mm-hmm.
Someone did ask, and I think you touched on what you're going to do as far as your stages going up. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like as you go down in numbers, are you just going to go down in those stages as well?
Right. So right now we're in stage 4, like I mentioned. Stage 1 through 3, all of the kids are going to transition to remote learning. Whether that is on a Chromebook and they have the access to connect to the assignments online, or some people, they do have internet access and they prefer the hard copy packets. Those will be distributed as well, and we will porch drop those to each family per the week. If we move up and we go to safer phases, so we're in 4, if we moved up to 5, then we'll bring those A and B groups together, and they will go Monday through Friday for half days. So that's the plan for that. And then 6, we would open up like normal because that would be post-pandemic.
And what are you looking at to determine that, and how often?
So weekly, we meet with our local health department. I just got off that call right before this, and they tell us at a certain rate, 5% or more, the virus is increasing 5% or higher, then that puts us at high risk. So then they start talking to other people in our region. If the whole region is increasing by 5% or more, we're going to go back into phase 3. So the governor will announce it. The health departments will email all of us and tell us, be ready, we're moving back to phase 3. Or be ready, we're moving up to phase 5. So then we can respond and react accordingly. So a lot of that was paid for through the CARES funding. We also have mental health supports for our staff and our students because it's a really traumatic time right now that we're living in. There are mental health supports provided by our tribal organization and Project Aware, which we will talk about in our next session because there's a lot of information about that. All right, so this is what we're going to, we're talking about right now, and this is a draft. We're trying to establish a color-coded communication system for our families. So the tribal school color-coded system will be enacted, and I don't know why there's a 3 there, but a letter will be sent home depending on the circumstances. So if you get a letter and there's, maybe we just check it. I don't know. I don't think the whole letter will be yellow on paper. But that means that somebody on your child's bus has tested positive for COVID-19. And it'll tell you what you're supposed to do and what the expectation is and what we're going to do. If it's purple, it means somebody outside of your child's classroom, your cohort, has tested positive. So that would be purple. And we're a small community. So if somebody in the kindergarten room who's never had interaction with your student in 5th grade tested positive, they're going to find out in our community. And this is to be proactive to say, yes, there was a positive case, but no, your child was not in direct exposure to that. Now, let's say you were in the kindergarten classroom. Somebody inside your child's classroom has tested positive, and that would be green, and then the letter would be adjusted accordingly. And then I thought, well, that's a lot of, doom and gloom and negative information, so let's do something where all is healthy and well in your child's classroom, and that would be silver or gray. Now, these colors are totally crazy, but other colors are associated with bad news. So if it was code red, everybody's like, wow, what does that mean? That's danger. So we stayed away from red. If we did code blue, that means something bad in a hospital. So we just picked colors that weren't really associated with things that people are really familiar with. So we're in the process of drafting those letters, and I was hoping to have them done to include to send you, but that's still in the works, and it's not ready yet. So the big question is what happens when Acose Manidosens, or the virus, visits our school? It's a bold statement because it says when, not if. We're living in a time right now where we need to plan like it's going to happen. We can't plan thinking, well, what if? We need to plan for when, because that's when we'll be the most prepared. And so that's the approach that we take. Go to the next slide. Okay, so what happens if a student or staff member become ill with COVID-19 symptoms at school? Because that's different than being tested positive. So students who develop a fever or become ill with COVID-19 symptoms at school, they'll continue to wear their mask and they'll go to the school's designated, and I put in quotes, quarantine area. We're calling that our Akosegamig, which means the place where people are ill in our language, until they can be transported by their parent or guardian, emergency contact, or if it's, because we don't know what's wrong with them at this point, they're just sick. There are times where we've had to call an ambulance because maybe it's a seizure or something like that, and we'll continue to do that. So really, this is things we've always done, but it helps people to know that we're being proactive because we're living in a different world and it could be COVID and we just don't know it yet. Staff who develop a fever or become ill with COVID-19 symptoms at school will continue to wear their mask because for them it's not optional. They'll always have it on. And follow our tribe's human resources COVID-19 leave procedure. So our human resources and our organization have came up with a plan and steps that staff have to follow if they have a fever or a cough that develops or they just aren't feeling good and they suspect that maybe they could have it. Symptomatic students and staff sent home from school should be kept home until they are determined if not to be infectious by a physician or healthcare provider. So we will need a note from their healthcare provider. Now, we did not mandate for them to get a test done because healthcare providers are the ones who will determine whether or not they need one. A school, that's not our place to tell them, go get a test. So that's up to the healthcare provider. We will cooperate with our tribal clinic and other local public health departments if there's a confirmed case identified. If there's a confirmed case identified, we're going to leave that room alone for 24 hours before that cleaning team comes in and does the sanitizing with that system I mentioned earlier, because it reduces or minimizes the risk of airborne particles. Cleaning staff will be provided with and wear surgical masks, gloves. They'll have an N95 mask and a face shield when performing cleaning of possible exposure areas. And they will change that before they clean any other part. Change it, dispose of it, and re-suit up before they go to any other part of the building. So there's a procedure for that, which I mentioned in the next bullet. Okay, so that's if they're ill. Now, what if somebody tests or a teacher tests positive? We're going to continue to follow the Tribal Human Resources COVID-19 leave procedure. They should return to the workplace after they are no longer infectious. And HR provides instruction about returning to work. So they work directly with the healthcare provider and they let us know, oh, so-and-so is coming back to work. The whole class, so let's say we don't have 6th grade, so let's say, pretend we have 6th grade. So let's say it's the 6th grade teacher. So the whole class will quarantine at home for 14 days and closely monitor for any symptoms of COVID-19. And then the cleaning and sanitizing I mentioned after 24 hours will occur. At this time, it is not recommended that all students and staff members get tested. Even though it's the teacher, so the paraprofessional and all the kids, they just watch for symptoms. I mean, if they went and got a test somewhere, that's up to them. But it's not recommended for us to say, hey, whole class, you need to go get tested. But those letters will come home and it'll say, now because of our HIPAA, we aren't saying if it's the teacher or the student when we send home those letters. Our school is small, so if we know 5th grade is gone, automatically the community is going to know it's the 5th grade teacher. So we don't identify. So the impacted class will transition to the online learning format with a remote coverage plan. So we have a remote coverage plan. So let's say it's the teacher and they're just feeling so sick they can't teach. We're not going to make them do that. Actually, we're going to recommend that they don't. So what happens is our reading specialist, who's a certified, highly qualified teacher, she's going to take over for any K through 2 grades. And our special education teacher, who is also highly qualified, will take over any 3 through 5th grade classes. In the event, because you should always have a backup plan for the backup plan. In the event the reading specialist or the special ed teacher are unavailable, then the tribal school principal, who is still a certified, highly qualified teacher, and or the curriculum instructional specialist, who is also a highly qualified teacher, will facilitate online learning for the identified classroom. Families will be notified of the presence of any laboratory positive or clinically diagnosed cases of COVID-19 in the classroom or school to encourage closer observation for symptoms at home. So I didn't add the student one in there because it's the same process exactly, but I know people were most concerned about teachers. What happens if teachers test positive? We have made the determination just recently that if we have 2 classes, because we have 6 grades, if 2 classes, which is a third of our school, is down, that's when we're going to transition the whole school to remote online learning, just because to us that's already too many. So our new normal, how have teachers' roles changed and how are teachers supposed to ensure students wear masks and physically distance? So we try to make the impact on teachers as minimal as possible because it's, first of all, it's hard to be a teacher to begin with, but now we have all of this and we made sure we surveyed them to ask them what they needed. So teachers will have to wear masks at all times. That's not an option in any tribal law or policy or any state guidance. So they'll have to wear a mask. It's just best practice. We are using a cohort model. So because we're cohorting, students' masks are optional. We're going to encourage it, but if they take them off because they can't, there's no punitive anything for that. They're little, like K5, which is also why we have the hybrid. So our school is going to be divided into with what's left of the people who didn't choose remote only. So right now, the largest class is 7 as of today. So there'll be a maximum of 7 students, the teacher and the para, so that's 9 people cohorted together. The cleaning and sanitizing is not the responsibility of the teacher. It's the responsibility of the CARES funded positions that I talked about. And then we provided outdoor teaching spaces, so that's going to be new for them. So those little powwow pavilions I mentioned, they can take their kids out there, and we made sure that there is Wi-Fi access out there if they want to take their Chromebooks. And then they will have to provide lessons for both the in-person, the hybrid students, and the online content. So that's different for them. It's more work, which is good that we have the half-a-days and the 1 day without students. It gives them time to do all of that. And there's a much heavier use of technology. So they have to make and edit videos, organize work packets, we have a work from home form to kind of, make sure that time is organized and well spent, and it'll help justify if we need more time.
Melissa, I have a question.
Yes.
A teacher myself. How was teacher buy-in with that? How did you get that buy-in?
So when everything happened in March, people were scared. And I knew that. And we're also we're a trauma informed. We're working to become trauma informed. And so I've had a lot of training on how to deal with very emotional people. And so I made sure that we met like every other day in March. What do you need? What do you need? Tell me what I can do. And they knew we were all doing the best we could, and I was there like with them. I was handing out lunches with them. I was doing all of the things that they wouldn't normally see me serving lunches, but I knew it was important for them. If I'm going to ask them to put their health on the line and scramble to do online content, then I need to do as much as I can to support them. So I know that helped. So they saw me more than they ever saw me. I surveyed them to say, all right, knowing what we know right now, what can we do moving into the school year that you can foresee so that we can, and they knew I always tried to make things happen. So they asked for something. Okay, let me get it. A lot of the times I tried, but I couldn't, but the times I did, they really appreciated it. So they just needed to see somebody who was very supportive. It was not perfect. I normally don't take any kind of stuff, but I had a teacher in tears, like cursing me out, and I just let her talk. And I said, you know what? I know you're doing the best you can, and I am too. I said, let's figure this out. And, I said, are you okay? And I just made sure that she felt supported in spite of her emotional reaction. And when I saw her again, I said, oh, hey, how's it going? It was like it never happened. I said, and then I did mention it again, like, everything good? And she was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's all right. It's all good. So it was just the approach. I think that made all the
I have one more question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that COVID hits or can hit an older person more than it would severely hit a child and teacher if they get sick, what was your plan there? Meaning a teacher could be out for 2 weeks, or they could get very sick. You could lose. You see what I'm saying? Did you go and get an abundance more of substitute teachers? Is that how you're handling that situation, or you just?
So we are connected to a substitute teacher. They give us a list and we call people. That's never really been utilized because number one, we're a tribal school. So the highly qualified status is just what our community prefers. So if we were ever really hurting, I have an expired license and I have staff who have expired license.
Mm-hmm.
We would step in and we would pick it up if we had to. And I told them that. I said, well, I can do it, but I'm plan Z. It's been so many years, and they're laughing. And we do have paraprofessionals too who are qualified to sub because you only need so many credit hours in Michigan. So we have an abundance of in-house people that can help. All right. Special education. This is a big one, you guys. I'm going to go over it quickly, and there's a lot of links and information I can direct you to, but I kind of want to highlight the most important things. Well, it's all important, but all right. So special education in Michigan. How are we doing it in Michigan? Because we all know that it's a federal requirement, and each state has their own way of adding more or doing things different, but it meets the same law or requirement. One of the things that we want to note right now is that in Michigan, there have been no approved federal waivers or requirements of IDEA, the Individuals, Disabilities, and Education Act. So sometimes there'll be waivers to say, hey, we can excuse you from A, B, and C. Right now, the expectation is that you fully meet all of the requirements of the Individuals with Disabilities and Education Act. So that means that districts are expected to meet all requirements, including timelines and everything else with IDEA. So that's important. The Michigan Department of Education Office of Special Ed, they will continue to identify non-compliance as appropriate and will determine the necessary corrective action. So we're very lucky and fortunate because the director of the Office of Special Education is also the tribal liaison for Michigan. So we have a direct connection to her, but they are very open and available to answer anybody's questions. And so they have a phone number and they have a 95% return call rate or answer on the first call rate. So they're really good at what they do. And that number I left there is public if there's any special education related questions. But again, it's coming from Michigan, and I know we're from all over. And so, maybe check with your state Department of Education to see if there's something like that. So Michigan has identified 6 priority topic areas. The first one is that prior to the start of the school year, as soon as possible, ensure that each student with an IEP has a current offer of FAPE or free and public education. So districts need to be proactive right now to figure out, as soon as the kids come back for us, which is Monday, let's prioritize this. Let's get these kids what they need. So it shouldn't be the kids start and they never gave it a thought. They have guidance that this is what they're supposed to do. There's something called a contingency learning plan for students with an IEP to be implemented when full in-person instruction is not provided. So what's going to happen if we can't meet face-to-face? How are you going to continue to meet their IEP goals in a remote learning situation? Priority topic 3 is to consider a need for parent counseling and training as related service to assist parents in getting the skills necessary to support the implementation of their child's IEP. So it shouldn't be a parent and most parents are very well versed in what the IEP is and are their child's best advocate, but some aren't. And so it's up to the district to provide you the information that you need to help your students. And then the priority topic 4 is to complete informal assessments of each student with an IEP to determine the current instructional level in all areas that they have a need. And it may include new or emerging needs. So we were very abruptly stopped in March. And so there's been probably learning loss because they weren't getting what was needed from March until now or whenever they start school. Priority topic 5 is to review actual impact of the pandemic by December 2020 with recovery services. So because of that learning loss, they have a requirement that you provide recovery services to bring that student back to where they were with regard to meeting their goals and their IEPs. And then the 6th area is to prioritize recovery services for those students who receive little or no special education services. So again, some of them it was bad. Some of them fell by the wayside. Everybody went remote and, they tried to do what they could and it just didn't happen. So I know that, those students, unfortunately, were just kind of left behind. All right, so we're going to focus on that first priority topic, free appropriate public education, and the link is in here to the document, and there are way more details than this. It's about 7 pages or so. So you can go there and kind of read the details for yourself. So what is not the behavior plan, I just read that. The contingency plan for the student. So this is similar to a behavior intervention plan, a health plan, or an emergency intervention plan. So the Michigan Department of Education recommends that the contingency learning plan and the events that may trigger the need for the implementation be referenced in the IEP. So it's not included in the IEP, but it's referenced. And I'll keep talking because I have the PowerPoint right here.
Oh, did Noah go off again?
He might have. So That was one of the distinctions that they really wanted to implement, was that it's not a part of the IEP that's in addition to the IEP, but it's mentioned in the IEP. So basically what they're doing is they're planning on what happens if we in Michigan went back to remote only.
Hold on just a second, Melissa.
Yep.
Can you share your screen so that we could see that? Since Noah, we're having technical difficulties. Noah is our technical person, and he just got knocked off. So he's the one that was doing the PowerPoint. But if
Can you
you
enable sharing?
share it, yeah, he did. I'm not a.
Okay, because I can't share it.
Okay, that's fine, because they'll be getting a copy of this anyway. So
Yep.
just go ahead.
Okay.
And someone said, can you just go back a little bit, because they misheard what you were saying there. So.
Oh, okay. What I was saying is that there's what's called a contingency learning plan for students with an IEP, and that's in addition to the IEP. It's not in the IEP. It's not a part of it. It's just mentioned in the IEP that there is a contingency learning plan for this student, and then they can access that, but it's not a part of, it's an addition to. It also has to talk about, I said we're in a hybrid situation. So for our contingency learning plans, we have to say what happens with a student who has an IEP when you have a hybrid learning situation. What happens in a remote only situation? What happens when we go to phase 5 and you're half days only? So you really have to plan forward and backward for the students with IEPs.
Someone asked if that also included 504. Do you also have a contingency plan with those with the 504 plan?
We will. It does not say in the guidance that you have to for a 504, but we're going to do it because we want to go above and beyond and make sure that every student is cared for. So, yeah, it doesn't mention it, but that doesn't mean that they won't come out with guidance later if enough people ask.
And I'm surprised that they haven't, to be honest with you.
Right, me too. And in fairness, this came out 2 days ago, so they could still have it in the works, but it just seems like a big thing to miss. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So the remote model, the hybrid model, or if a student or the parent is comes down with COVID-19, so they could be in quarantine and can't get the services that they need because somebody's sick. So what are you going to do in that regard? So every I said forward and backward planning for the students with IEPs. All right, so the priority topic 6 is recovery services. And I talked about that because we see that some students didn't get any support as far since March. So districts it's just good practice to have already identified the students that need your services, special education services, and hit the ground running when they get there. So Michigan has identified what those priorities should be and who it should be. So it should be students who did not receive special education services at all since March. The second one is they were unable to access special education services during learning from a distance because whatever that need was could not be done remotely. And have identified needs that may warrant recovery services for a successful return to school. So recovery services, and the school needs to be, like I said, proactive in determining what that is and like hit the ground running with those identified students. And it has to be done in a least restrictive environment, which is part of FAPE and special education IDEA law. So some considerations of recovery services as supplement to a free and public education may include assistive technology, social, emotional, or behavior supports, or any other supplementary aids and services provided to support a student's return to making progress. Additional consultation services with a general education, support from the general education and special education teacher, and then recovery services during a break in instruction when a student is not eligible otherwise for extended school year services. So it's just getting them that support for the support they lost since March. So we had a couple of questions in one of our special education meetings. One ISD director claimed that some of their districts were considering putting language in their preparedness plan regarding cohorting all the special education students together and not allowing them to participate in their general education classes, and wanted to call that cohorting. But under IDEA, a free and public education would be denied, and if those students and those families took them to court, it would not stand up against a complaint or a lawsuit. So they have to continue to be included in general education classes to the most extent possible. And right now, I'm sure that's really gray. But you can't plan to just put them all together without looking at their individual needs one-on-one. If a K-5 student with an IEP is pulled out for small group ancillary services like speech or something like that, or to attend the resource room, would this require other K-5 students in their cohort to wear a mask? And so what Michigan is really supporting and requiring is that everybody push in to the general education classroom to provide services for the students, because taking kids out and going to this room and then that room and exposing them to too many common areas is just, it's not good for virus mitigation.
Melissa,
Yes.
you're so thorough, and this information is so necessary and so needed, but we are once again out of time.
Yes.
We will be here again next week at the same time, 2:00 p.m. Central Time. So if we can maybe stop there. There was one question I do want to go back to, if everybody could just hold on for just a few minutes. Someone did ask, why did you decide not to make mask mandatory? Why was that your decision? Or not your decision, but your district's decision?
It was our district decision when we surveyed the community. We surveyed our families and got an 80% response rate, which is pretty high. And there were only 20% of the families who were advocating for no masks. The rest of them wanted, 40% wanted the option and 40% wanted masks only all the time.
So you went strictly by what the parents
In this case, yeah.
requested for?
Now, if they would have all wanted no mask, I wouldn't have been able to do that and justify it. But, you know, the parents spoke loudly about what they wanted and agreed with the state's guidance and the CDC and all of that other stuff. So we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And we actually have a higher enrollment now than we did last year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We're happy about that.
Once again, you've done an outstanding job. You are a wonderful teacher. I really respect everything that you have to offer. I think this is just so needed right now for all of our nations. We welcome you back next week at 2:00 p.m. We'll go from there and hopefully get through this next week.
I will say the next slides were only question and answers from the frequently asked questions document. So there's a link for that, and you guys can read that, and you'll have all the information.
Yeah, and we will be uploading the video to our YouTube channel, and it will also be on our website. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. Have a great afternoon and evening, and I hope to see you all next week.
Real quick before everybody hops off, I'm going to share two different links in the chat. The first link is to the GIPRA survey, which is the standard for all of our events, and it allows you to give us feedback and our funders to see how we are doing. The second link is to the needs assessment that Teresa mentioned. We are trying to collect data from parents, students, staff, anybody who's in the K through 12 community about what their needs are relating to mental and behavioral health. It's really important for developing future programming to address those needs and to kind of see where people are at. So the link that says forms.gle, that's the needs assessment. It's only open for people who are parents, caretakers, custodians of K through 12 kids, or people who are working in K through 12 schools. So please,
And that's because we want, sorry, Noah, that's specifically because we want to help. And so we are here to offer our support and resources. So we want to try to get some demographic information of where we need to put those resources. Sorry, Noah.
No problem. I'll also be sending those out in the follow-up email. The needs assessment is open to anybody who fits within that criteria. So if there are other people you want to share that with, that would be really helpful in collecting a more representative sample. But the GIPRA is just for this event alone.
Somebody mentioned I forgot to add my contact information, so I will edit the PowerPoint with that on there and get that updated and sent to Noah before he sends it out. Is that okay, Noah?
Yep, that's great.
Okay.
It takes a little while for the video to process, so that'll go out later today or tomorrow morning.
Someone also asked where on the YouTube it will be uploaded to the Native Center for Behavioral Health. So if you'll just put that into the YouTube search engine, it'll come up. And that'll probably be done maybe today or tomorrow. But last week's is already up there. So. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, guys. Have a great day. Melissa, you're wonderful. Did you leave?